Hey everybody, it's Mark here from Cynically Optimistic Bloke. I quit online dating, and here's why. I met my last partner through online dating, believe it or not. I mean, it was like, finding her was like finding a golden needle in a haystack of horror. A burning haystack that was sinking into a swamp that then just exploded before being eaten by demonic horses and cows. You know, maybe I exaggerate a little bit, or do I? A barmaid once said to me, "Online dating, isn't that for lonely people?" And I went, yeah. I mean, it was all I could do not to give the answer that comment richly deserved, lest I be kicked out of said establishment. I mean, no shit. Of course it's for lonely people. But in my experience, a lot of people don't use online dating to find someone, or because they're lonely. My first online dating experience was post-divorce, so coming up to 4 years ago now. Imagine the setting. Me, newly humbled by a divorce, finding my feet, moving home, with a daughter, a 5-year-old daughter at the time, and I was lonely, and I was 20 years out of the dating game. That's 2 generations removed. It's like somebody that last dated in the 1980s trying to date in the year 2000s, or in the 1960s, in the 1980s. It's a bit of a mind fuck, let's be fair about it. So my barber, great guy that he is, I've known him for 6 years, he tidies up this mop, and I mean that genuinely, he's a great guy. He recommended Tinder. I know, exactly. It's like the dating app that sort of started it all in the swiping range, isn't it? Tinder has, I realized quite quickly, a well-deserved, shall we say, reputation. Within a few days, I had over 10 matches with 18 to 23-year-old girls. And the opening line from them all was, "Will you be my sugar daddy?" Now I was, 46 at the time, with a 5-year-old daughter? It didn't really get any better, and my first thought was, Admiral Akbar from Return of the Jedi, it's a trap!
It's a trap!
I moved from there to Bumble, and then Hinge, and then maybe 3 or 4 more. And whilst I found my recent partner on Hinge, after some time, marvellous as that was at the time, it was kind of like all the planets aligning for me. And for her at the time as well, I'm sure. I signed up to Hinge and Bumble again 2 months after my recent breakup, hoping to repeat my luck. But I was again, honestly lonely. I lasted maybe 6 weeks. Some things haven't changed since my first experiences 3 years ago. And I didn't dare subject myself to Tinder. I wasn't even in that place, in that realm. So, what the hell made me want to quit them? I've got a lot of reasons here. Number 1, it's money grabbing from vulnerable people, pure and simple. I know that there's a court action going on at the moment that is kind of under the radar with a lot of the big ones, a lot of the big dating apps to go, is it really this? A lot of the apps like Bumble and Hinge, they give you the premium service, and there's a higher service, get the premium service and have 11 times more matches. Get the extra premium service to have 3 times or 4 times more than that number of matches than that. But do you really? I asked for the data of my experiences from Hinge and from Bumble. Hinge gave it to me no problem, and I'll speak about that later. Bumble had to jump through hoops, and it was a nightmare, and it didn't happen. Take from that what you will. Number 2, of the people on the apps, there's a lot of suspicious bots and scammers. I mean, my God, the number of good-looking girls that I matched with that I used to play a game with myself. In fact, I'm getting to that in a minute. So let's just go straight to number 3. You can play a game, a timing game, with younger women who've matched with you. So a 46-year-old guy, when women matched you and they were exceptionally good looking, I used to play a game to see how many conversational interactions I could have with that profile before the profile disappeared, because there were scammers or there were bots, and the app noticed that and then went, I'm deleting them. So you're left with nothing. But that would probably still count as a match out of that premium service. That's a little bit questionable to me. Number 4, of those that were left, many of the matches are just looking for validation or free meals and drinks. God, the number of women that I, matched with that were like, oh, I've got lots of men suitors on here, or men that are interested in me. What are you going to do that's better than them? And I'm like, well, absolutely nothing. You go and be with them and have fun. I had met a girl that was on a dating app at a night out that was part of a meetup group that I was quite proud of myself. This was after my divorce, and I had 20 matches at one point on Hinge. And I was like, oh, that's amazing, that's great. And she had like 70 or something, and she wasn't even an attractive woman to me. Her girlfriend was sitting across the table. Maybe she could have been polyamorous, I don't know, but all of those guys that were like talking to her, and she's just enjoying the process. She's just enjoying the attention and the validation. Whereas these guys are probably looking and going, I'd quite like to date somebody in that. Find somebody, as this app says. That's not going to happen when you've got connections like that. Number 5, men and women, their swiping behaviors are different. As a guy, and having spoken to other guys, we will match on pretty much, I would say, 80% of women. And then if we get a match in return that completes the sort of connection, at that point in time, we'll decide. Whereas women will just match with a few guys, the top 10% or whatever it is, and you will hardly ever get any connections on that. The caveat to that is that I've certainly noticed this on Bumble, where they're the ones that have to make the move first of all, in most cases, although they do have elements of their system now where you can put in a question that will start the conversation and it goes from there, from your side as a guy. But sometimes you'll get a new person on and they'll match with you, and then you'll start talking, or maybe they won't start talking, but then they'll get a ton of other matches from guys, and then they'll go, all right, well, this guy's not as good as these tons of other guys, so then they'll direct their attention that way and that. And so you could get matches from women where I've been the roses or whatever on Hinge, or, you know, the special matches, the heart matches and stuff like that, and then nothing will come of it because suddenly they've been besotted by other guys that they valued more highly. So that just doesn't really breed good connection, does it? Number 6, this is what I've just been speaking about. Women's effort changes depending on new match valuations and validations. So they come on board, they match with you, and then nothing happens, even though they've like highly gone, oh right, this guy looks all right. So you're left sort of hanging and going, what am I even doing here? You know, why am I wasting my time? Number 7, the majority of conversations I've found by women are low effort, but the expectation from them is that the conversations from guys have to be high effort. I've seen at one point or another several women that were both on the Hinge app and on the Bumble app. And on the Hinge app, part of their profile says, hit me up with your best line and your patter better be amazing. And then they've matched with me on the Bumble app where they have to speak first. And their line is, hey, or hi. I mean, it's just ridiculous that they're putting so little effort in, because that's all they have to do. They're getting, like this other girl that I met, 70 matches. So why should they put effort in? But their expectation is that guys should make, because they look at themselves as the prize, in a way they are the prize because they're the ones that are in demand. You know, why should they put effort in? You know what? To me, reciprocation of effort is a big deal. If I'm not going to find reciprocation of effort on these apps, then I'm just not going to bother, am I? And that's my choice as a paying consumer. I may not be entirely correct in these assessments, but I'm a paying consumer. I don't have to spend my money that way. Number 8. The hoops you have to go through to get on a date is considerable. There's a lot of like stuff on, you know, YouTube and other stuff that goes, oh yeah, get a date as quickly as possible on that, you know, within 5 or 7 interactions on that. But also, if somebody gives you a telephone number or, you know, number for WhatsApp on that within 3 or 5 things, then that's really dodgy. That could be a scammer and things like that. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, but there's also a lot of expectations from guys and women and stuff like that. So to actually get to a point of going on a date is quite difficult, particularly given that most people have really busy schedules. So it's not like you're going to be able to go, hey, you doing anything tomorrow night? No, I'm not. No, I'm not either. So therefore, let's go on a date, etc., etc. I have a kid, for example, so I can't just drop everything and go on a date. Sometimes it would be like 2 or 3 weeks later, we could go on a date for when I did actually get to go on a date. Number 9, there's a lot of catfishing, that's for sure. So this girl several years ago that had 70 matches and that, her profile picture did not look anything like her. And I've been on 1 or 2 dates where the profile pictures are, shall we say, taken several years ago or taken under different circumstances. I admit I'm not the best looking guy in the world, but you know what? I don't care. I've got a lot going for me on that. But I always put recent pictures and put up what I look like and who I am. Because at the end of the day, if I turn up to a date and I'm not what they're looking for, then, what's the point? All that effort's wasted in that. I'd rather not even spend my money going on a date where somebody's automatically disappointed but turned up and gone, oh, you know what? I'll just let you pay for dinner and that anyway, and I'll get a free meal out of it. Number 10. Cultural differences are common, but they're also used as an excuse, I found, for poor behaviour. I've been out with Asian women, I've been out with Ukrainian women, I've been out with Indian women, I've been out with women, across cultural spectrums. Ukrainian girl that I went out with was absolutely lovely, and I've got not a bad word to say about her, basically. The Asian women that I went out with were very much, you need to pay for everything, by the way. This is on a first date, or, oh yeah, the restaurant wasn't very good last time, but yeah, I'm happy to go out for a second date with you, but you need to pay for everything. Why am I needing to pay for everything here? We only just met each other. Oh, but it's a cultural thing. Men need to pay for all this. And I'm like, it just was a very, very convenient, shall we say. That's not an issue with the apps necessarily. It's an issue with cultural entitlement. Whilst I may not be 100% correct in saying this, certainly I'd be interested in hearing perspectives on this, and perspectives from Asian guys and that are actually dating and that. Certainly with the Ukrainian girl that I dated, the first date or two, I actually paid for the dates and I took the lead, but there is a firm cultural legacy and tradition in that space that I can respect. But I knew that once we got past the first or second dates and that there will be a more giving back in that. As it was, various things didn't work out and that, but I don't have anything against that, because both of our lives are very busy and that's just how it all happened, really. So, number 11, the swipe to match to date percentage ratio is extremely low, except for maybe the top 2 or 3% of guys, I would say. Not that I've seen any guys' profiles, because I'm obviously a guy searching for women and stuff. So in terms of figures from Hinge, over the course of 6 weeks or something, I swiped on like 1,800 women. My match ratio was 4%. 4% of those 1,800. But I do remember there was like 4.3% or something like that was the percentage ratio of people that actually had connected with me. But that includes scammer profiles that were actually deleted later. And of that percentage, I had 2 dates. So I effectively spent 45 quid a month or something for the premium rate, where I'm meant to get 11 times the number of matches. So I spent 90 quid on Hinge, and I got 2 dates out of it. Doesn't really seem worth it now, does it? Number 12, YouTube and blogging advice on dating is an industry in itself. And I've spoken a little bit of that earlier. There's a lot of advice out there. How to make your profile, how to speak to women, how you should be angling, how you should be doing this, how you should be doing that. It's an industry in itself. As to whether or not it's an honest industry, I'm not exactly sure. Certainly maybe the women that I'm looking for, it's not the best for, because I'm not a player. I'm just a guy looking for a girl, blah, blah, blah. Standing at a bookstore. And in a bookstore, that's where I'll probably be,
I'm also just a girl, standing in front of a boy.
Number 13, it's addictive and made to be addictive, more so with ADHD. And I'll come into sort of ADHD behavioural points later after this list. They say you don't have to swipe and all that sort of stuff, it'll come to you, blah, blah, blah. Both of those apps, right at the beginning when you log on, they go, okay, swipe right or left and that, so that we can start to get a picture of what your dating interests are and that. Why would they basically get a picture of your dating interests? Because that would mean they would withhold people from you, and that's not really the case. You can swipe on anybody. It's basically to get your addiction going, to get that dopamine hit. Oh yeah, there's a good looking girl, there's a not so good looking girl, blah, 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 and you just keep on going. And next thing you know, you found yourself, an hour's gone by and I've swiped on a ton of people. Unless, of course, you're on the free version, and then you've got like 5 swipes or whatever it is. Of course, they have it that in order to see any of your matches, you need to pay for the damn thing. So it is an industry in itself. What's the point in going on a dating app when you can't even see the people you've matched with? You have to pay for that. Number 14, it's not in any way inclusive. Obviously, I have ADHD. I have sensory processing disorder and various things like that as well. I think was it Bumble, I could put that on Neurodiverse or something like that, but it's not like you can, yes, you can maybe search for that term, but all you're doing is reducing the number of people that you've got in that pool, and there's not any sort of sense of inclusivity of how people interact. I know a lot of people that are neurodiverse that they're very, very shy. They wouldn't even want to put profile photos on. How is that inclusive? You can't match with people and not see them, or you would think it's a scammer anyway. So there's all this stuff about neurodiverse people that are not really thought about in this, and that's fine. But don't claim that you're inclusive and you have all these things in place when you're actually not. That's a questionable one, I think. Number 15, safety measures are half-hearted by the platforms at best, especially for men. I reported 2 women while I was on, might have been one on Bumble and one on Hinge, and both took about 2 weeks before they came back and said, we've given this person a warning or something. One was absolutely blatantly sexist and misanthropic, basically saying in the profile, older guys don't even think about shouldn't go for younger women, you should be on stroke watch. That is obviously awful. So straight away I was like, report that sort of thing. It took weeks, and then the person just got a warning on that. So what do you have to do as a girl to be offensive and to be blocked out of this? And it's not like you could probably not just sign straight back up again using a different account name or something. It's not very safe, I would say. Number 16, there are high and expensive cultural expectations for what is appropriate for a first date and what that should involve. So some girls go, oh yeah, let's go for a coffee or let's go for a walk. The number of women that are like, you should take me out to an expensive restaurant, even though it's just a first date. And I know that's just like a red flag right there, because they're not really looking for you. They're just looking for somebody to pay for a nice meal or something. You go onto a dating platform and you automatically know that the women like this other girl 3 years ago are talking to 70 men or more. It's just like meet early in the evening or something for a date. Oh, you've got to go early, do you? Yes, okay, you've probably got another date lined up. Guys aren't stupid, but you're still trying it on. First date where you're having to shell out a ton of money and stuff for them that you're never going to see him again? No, thank you. If you don't like what I look like, or vice versa, then what's the point? It's a waste of money, basically, Dating can be really, really expensive. Number 17, you can spend a lot of energy and effort to go on a date, or to get to a date for that matter. You're having the same conversations with people. You match a new person. Oh yeah, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. It's the same conversations over and over again. It's draining. It sucks the energy out of you. And then they're not responding, or it'll take 3 days to respond, or, they don't respond at all. I had one person that matched with me, where the conversation started out great, and then I didn't hear from them for 4 days. And the person replied back saying, I'm not really feeling the flow of this conversation. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You haven't replied for 4 days. To have flow in a conversation, there needs to be 2 people talking. So I think it's just a case of I'm so annoyed with dating apps that I just don't give a shit anymore. So my expectations are so low that I'm like, I just say how it is. So it's like, just say you're not interested, rather than come out with some bullshit excuse of conversations not flowing when you haven't spoken to me in 4 days. So it's just a load of bollocks, basically. And the last one is, they've got all these search mechanisms and that on dating apps. You can search by interest, you can search by, age, you can search by, other variables on that. But all you're actually doing is reducing the actual dating pool of people that you might possibly be able to connect with. So what's the point in doing that? And you can't even put all of your interests on your profile anyway. I think the maximum for Hinge, for example, is 5 out of a whole ton of stuff. So that's not going to be, unless you're the most boring person on the planet really, and you've got like 3 interests or something like that in your entire life, that's not really a true expression of yourself. So why would you bother searching under it? It's just stupid. Those are the technical and user-based issues that I have with dating apps. What are there specifically in terms of ADHD and neurodiverse people like I am? Number 1, we hyperfocus and we hyperfixate on people. For a while, we're interested for a while and we'll talk and we'll be like, oh yeah, real blah, 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 blah. And then something will happen, or something will click, or something will spark our disinterest, and then it will go away and we just won't be bothered anymore. And that makes dating hard, because our interest is finite, but it's also pretty hardcore. right from the beginning, and to maintain that interest is difficult. Number 2, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. You know, I've talked about this before, and the chaos of that. An underhand comment or, a bit of a sarky remark, even in the early days when we're still pretty much trying to get a perspective of the other person's personality, can hit us wrong, or direct rejection can hit us wrong, and we're just flawed, and we just don't want to know about it anymore. We just disconnect. That makes dating hard as well. Number 3, being inconsistent and forgetful. I've heard of people with ADHD where they've set out a message to send to the person, think they've hit send, and then forgotten about it, and then they're picked up about a day and a half later going, oh, you still haven't replied to me. Oh shit, I had this ready to send, but I thought I'd sent it. Yeah, not really good for reciprocation on that. Number 4, impulsivity and oversharing. We love to overshare. Oh, we're on a first date and we're telling our life story and that, and all about our last breakup and the trauma associated with that, and blah blah blah. Or here's some amazing moments of when I was a kid and stuff like that. Things that are completely inappropriate for a first date or initial conversations and that just scare people shit off. Not good, really. Number 5, small talk. Bloody kills us, man. I mean, I put on my Hinge profile that I was interested in deep dive conversations. Did I have any deep dive conversations while I was on Hinge? No, I bloody did not. And in fact, I think I played a game for about 2 weeks where I love Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and there's a question in that at the end, which people will know, what is the unladen flight velocity of a swallow?
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
What do you mean? An African or European swallow?
I used that as my opening line for several matches, and most of them just didn't get it. And I think I had 2 responses. One was the correct answer, African or European, and the other one was a complete scientific breakdown of airspeed, velocity, and weight ratios and that. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, but at least it was deep dive conversations as opposed to small talk. Like, oh yeah, what is your favorite color? I couldn't give a shit about that, unless they basically turned around and went, well, it's, teal or something like that, and here's the reasoning behind it, but you're never going to get that, are you? Number 6, emotional intensity. We can be bloody intense. Oh yeah, what did you do yesterday? Well, let me tell you about yesterday. It was a dark day, it was hard, it was just, etc. Number 7, failing at dating norms. I mean, we overthink shit all the time, so how often should I be texting people or messaging people and stuff? With my ex, it was great. We didn't have to think about that. We could send each other 100 messages in a day, and we'd agreed at the beginning that we weren't going to overthink that. That was great. Beginning of a new relationship or beginning of dates, you do have to think about that. People get overwhelmed with that stuff. Number 8, dopamine. We love dopamine. We crave dopamine. We're addicted to dopamine. We are attracted to chaos. Dopamine is far more influential on us and our thinking and our bodies than healthy relationships. And honestly, I think because of my ADHD, with my ex, I was maybe attracted to a person that was, in some respects, still dealing with trauma and in some levels toxic, but maybe I was toxic as well in some degrees. Certainly I'm still healing, but I didn't know that at the time that I needed to heal more. But I was attracted to the chaos of that in a way that was almost addictive, and that's probably the dopamine, but it came back as well, Number 9, dating screws with our routines. We have morning routines, we have day routines, we have to take our medication, and everything is fine. We're getting through life, dealing with stuff, but then we insert another person into that where we need to go out on dates and do things. It just messes with our equilibrium and with our structures. And that's a hard one for us. So what do we do about it? Well, we get into a relationship, like I did with my ex, and their structures and our structures align to a degree in that, and we get used to that, and then it all falls apart, and then we're left reeling because the structure that we had is we don't have that anymore because it was fitted around the one that we had in our relationship, and now that's no longer a thing anymore, and we're just, it just is blown apart, really. Number 10, self-worth reflections. We're always questioning our self-esteem, especially when on dating apps, you can have people that are unmatching with you for no reason. I've had women where I'm meant to go out on a date the next night, and then suddenly I get unmatched. I've got no contact information, and I don't know why that's happened. So I'm like, all right, okay, well, I'll just go and phone the restaurant to, cancel that, and hopefully I won't have to pay, a deposit and stuff like that. Thank you very much. And that obviously hits our self-esteem because we're like, why is that happened? Anyway, what's next for me? Well, for me, I think I need to build my mental health, my sense of self-care, heal my self-esteem. Not from necessarily from the dating apps, but just because it's coming up to 6 months or so since my breakup, but I've made a lot of progress, but I'm actually enjoying my time by myself, and I'm not looking for anything now. Maybe something will drop out of the sky, you never can tell, or anything like that.
Beautiful, naked, big-titted women just don't fall out of the sky, you know?
I'm very aware of what I need to do to make myself better and to make myself a person that I'm content and I love myself for that. Things like this ring is things that I'm doing for myself and that. And I'm going away for my 50th at the end of the month to Boston and that. You know, that's another thing. Doing it myself. I've never flown before. Alone, bizarrely enough. I'm nearly 50 and I've never flown on an airplane by myself before. It's very cute, I know. With our thoughts, we make the world. So I need to heal my thoughts. I need to heal my inner child. I need to work on my inner child, shadow work and things like that, meditation. I need to reduce my any potential triggers, but I need to not lose myself and what is great about me in that process, because there is a lot that is great about me, and I know that my ex thought there was a lot that was great about me, and there still is, and vice versa, but it's just not, it wasn't our time in some respects. Shit happens, basically. You know, are there apps out there for neurodivergent people in terms of dating? Yes, they are, but I think they're small scale and, you know, limited number of users. I've not tried them, but I've heard very, very mixed things about them. I've looked them up on, you know, the App Store for iPhone. Both of them have got, you know, the ratings that are like sort of 3.2, 3.6. One I think is called Hickey, the other one is called Matter. Hickey spelled H-I-K-K-I, Matter M-A-T-T-R. But certainly looking up Matter the other day, it was like in the UK, we're only opening users in London. Fair enough, a business has to scale up, but that's not something I can join right now. But I have always thought a dating app for neurodivergence would be good. Dating for neurodivergence, I think, is a hard sell because many neurodiverse people are introverted. I would say I'm like an extroverted introvert, so I can go out and do stuff and that, but I have a limited amount of energy. Even just a couple of months ago, I went out to an event on a Sunday, getting to know people, 40 people in a room and that, and I sat in the corner and I spoke to a couple of people, and then I was just like, oh my god, I've hit the wall. And I was only there for an hour, and it was meant to be another 4 hours, and so I just had to make my excuses and leave. I'm confident enough to do that, rather than just collapsing in a corner and that. It's hard to do neurodiverse dating when you're an introvert who doesn't like to show their face or put profile pictures up, or their self-esteem is low, and that is difficult, and that is a hard market to sell to. But at the same time, probably quite a lot of users there, and there is a market for it. But it's just how do you nurture that market and make it inclusive? So, I think that's probably quite a long one. I have some real bad dating horror stories, but maybe that's for another video. Do tell me your dating horror stories in the comments. But most of all, you know, like, share, comment, tell people about this channel, etc., etc. And, you know, I'm really grateful for any users that subscribe to this and anybody that watches this. It's you know, really meaningful to me, and I've had a few people comment saying they really like my content and, you know, it makes a difference in their lives, and that is just amazing to hear. It keeps me going and keeps me wanting to make more of that. Most of all, I'm just enjoying this process and that. But do subscribe. You know, if I could ever get this monetized, it would just be a little nice extra thing and that, something to be proud of, something that will make my daughter proud because she likes YouTube as well. Yeah, as I say, like, subscribe, most of all, you know what I'm going to say, be well. Cynically optimistic bloke.